The Story of Mistletoe. Inside the greatest stories are 100 little stories that get forgotten. Inside the story of the first winter, the death of Baldur, there is also the story of mistletoe. At the Yuletide now, we hang mistletoe, and whenever a girl and boy pass beneath it, they must kiss. But so few remember why. The tale of mistletoe is one of love and pride, foolishness and forgiveness. First and best of the sons of Frigga and Odin was Baldur the Bright. He was called the Shining One. His laughter and courage were beacons to the Aesir, and his gentleness an offer of peace when the battle din had faded. Where the world carved by the Jotun and Odin from Ymir's bones was cold and cruel, Baldur would add a touch of brightness and beauty. Where the spear-sharp mountain was cut by icy stream, would Baldur carve a hidden flowered glen, a softly whispering pool. Where Muspelheim's fire clawed at the ice and rock of earth, would Baldur twist and twine to form a bubbling spring of warmth to bring promise of life to the most forsaken fell. When the first war raged between the Aesir and the Vanir, sweet Frigga feared for her son, because always he was first in battle. Indeed, he was too swift to offer mercy, or killing strokes would be safer. In time the Aesir and Vanir swore to peace, and the Vanir too grew to love Baldur for his ways. For a time the 9 worlds were almost at peace. The Aesir and Vanir were united. The raiding with the Jotun was more friendly sport than earnest war. At this time, Frigga vowed to make her son safe forever. To the dwarvish deeps she went first, and begged favor from the dwarves. Let not stone, nor steel, nor any metal forged dare harm my son, she begged. The dwarves looked deep into the earth, at the ropes and rivers of gold, sparkling diamonds that promised the wonders of the night sky, all the secret things that Baldur had placed within the hidden earth for them to find. They loved Baldur well, and they gave Frigga the oath, nothing forged nor born of the earth should ever harm him. To the birds of the air, the beasts of the field, the whales and fishes of the deep did she go and beg safety for bright Baldur. As each would look upon the beauty that Baldur had woven into their world, they would promise him protection. From Yggdrasil and all the lesser trees did Frigga then beg favor, and one by one they all swore Baldur's protection for all the beauty that he had given them. At last came Frigga to the youngest of plants, newborn mistletoe. She begged protection for her son from mistletoe. Now mistletoe lives inside the oak and never sees the sun. Far from the ground, it cannot see beyond the oak's mighty leaves. The oak itself did lend its voice and beg and plead with mistletoe, but mistletoe had never seen the gifts of Baldur. All Frigga's tears and the oak's stern words meant nothing to mistletoe. In ignorance and pride, it would give no oath to Lady Frigga. Alone of giant man and god was Loki in his jealousy. Baldur's love meant nothing to him, and he ever sought to mock him. All his jests did him no good, for Baldur simply laughed with him. With envy and rage did Loki plot to do Baldur harm, and at last he thought to ask Frigga what protections that she had won him. "How you must fear for such a bold son," he said. "Of all the gods, your Baldur is ever first in battle." At Loki's words did sweet Frigga smile, never dreaming that her kinsman plotted harm. The stones of the earth, all metals forged, all beasts of water and land and air have sworn him protection, did Frigga smile. Loki pressed for answers. "What of tree and leaf of nut? What of dandelion and rose?" he asked. Frigga laughed at his silly words and said, "Trees and grasses, bush and vine, all have sworn his protection. Only lowly mistletoe withholds it." Loki laughed and slid away, having what he needed. Sweet Frigga did not suspect that Loki plotted treason. Down to Midgard with a silver knife he crept. He made his harvest, a slender wand of mistletoe. In the fire with his spells he hardened it into an arrow strong as steel. his arrow forged of mistletoe and murder in his heart, Loki crossed the rainbow bridge and came back to Odin's court. "A game!" he shouted. "A sport to test our mettle." Loki's challenge drew every eye. "Let Baldur stand before the host. Let every warrior try him with his finest weapon." The gods did not want to raise a hand against him, but Baldur, knowing the strength of his protection, thought it great sport. "What harm in this?" he said. "Let's have a game. Let all my friends and brothers try. Let them try their mightiest strokes, and I will judge who among them is strongest." Baldur's words stirred every heart with honest love for battle. Laughing, they all did array to try their strokes against him. Odin's spear, Thor's dread hammer, the swords of Frey and Heimdall, the bow of Ullr, all did fail against him, and with great laughter the hall shook. Blind Hod alone, who had lost his sight in battle, did not join the sport, until Loki crept to him. "Here, brother, why do you not join the sport? I have an arrow for your bow, and I will guide your hand." Hod then smiled and drew his bow, and Loki did fit the arrow. Dread mistletoe struck Baldur dead, and the light of the world died with him. All remembers what happened next. How sweet Sunna the sun fled from a world without Baldur. How winter came to the world, darkness and cold. All remember the punishment of Loki, a binding and torment that would last until the end of days. Each Yule we remember Baldur's arrival in Hel's own hall, how she bade him to sit beside her and join her at the hall until the end of days, when he would come forth again to lead the survivors. But who now remembers the fate of Mistletoe, the agent of Baldur's bane? When Baldur fell, sweet Sunna turned her face away. The sun fled from our skies. Without the light of the sun, the world grew cold and dark. The trees lost their leaves, and for the first time Mistletoe saw beyond the arms of the mighty oak. Everywhere the dying light showed emptiness and loss, but here and there beauty would shine, and Mistletoe did weep. "Who has made this?" Mistletoe asked, and every time the answer came, "Baldur the Fallen." Mistletoe looked at all the beauty in the world and wept for her crime. Mother Frigga, in her rage, demanded the death of her son's killer, demanded the death of Mistletoe. Of Odin and Yggdrasil, of Frey and gentle Nerthus, she begged the price of a mother's vengeance. Every god condemned it. Alone of all the gods did gentle Freya hear the weeping. Alone of all the Vanir did she stoop to hear the reason. To Mistletoe she swiftly flew within her falcon cloak. Upon the oak tree did she land beside the weeping plant. Love's golden goddess asked Mistletoe, "Why do you weep?" "For Baldur slain," Mistletoe said, "for beauty lost and love gone from the world." Freya asked of Mistletoe, what war guild would it pay? How would it give back the beauty lost, the love that Baldur offered? When Mother Frigga in her rage came down Bifrost Bridge, Freya stood with Mistletoe to face the grieving mother. "Blessed Frigga," she asked, "will you accept the war guild of the Weeping Flower? Or with slaughter will you stain the memory of your loving son?" Frigga stared hard and cold to hear the war guild's terms. Mistletoe, in humble grief, did offer this: "Where Yuletide brings the pain of loss, will Mistletoe bring love. Beneath my humble leaves let love now be kindled. What fairer grave goods for the sun-bright lord than the promise of new love? When two now meet beneath my leaves, let love's first kiss light between them. Let the light of love remember him for whom the world weeps this Yuletide. And now, down the ages, we remember the oath of Mistletoe. A kiss, the promise of new love, within this coldest of all seasons."